Hi everyone, I'm Dace Thomas from SNS College of Technology handling the subject automation testing. So today we'll discuss the Unit 4 API testing fundamentals. Okay. So what is an API? API is the expansion is application programming interface. Okay. So let me ask you, do you use an API in your daily life, in your daily basis? Do you use an API? I will say yes. All are using some APIs every day. All of us use smartphones. In the smartphones, you use many social media applications like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You use some other e-commerce applications like Amazon, Flipkart. Then you use Google Pay, Phone Pay to pay your bills. You use weather applications. You use Google Map, you use Netflix. So all these applications are having an API. There is an interface. So knowingly or unknowingly, you are using APIs in your daily life. So when an application, an app or a website is developed, you test it. Okay. So developer gives it to different users, and some people find it difficult to navigate in this app. Some people find it confused. Some people say it is not easy to use. It is a complex application. Some often clicks the left button and they mistakenly go to some other pages. So they users find many problems while using some applications. So developer has to confirm that the application is easy to use, clear documentation, quick debugging must be done. And the end user will have their own expectations that the application must give them a fast response, reliable data, and the transaction must be secure. So for this, we have API, that is application in programming interface. The interaction sequence will be like this. First, the application sends a request to the API. So API will receive the request. Then API receives the request at the endpoint. Then it is designated to the endpoint. API processes the request. The request will be sent to the particular endpoint, and the endpoint will process it and send a response back to API. Then application receives the response. So this is the interaction sequence of API. Then there are different API testing strategies. First one is automated testing. That is this. There are different tools that will automatically test your application or website. The other one is manual testing. That is human beings themselves will test the application. So it is some time-consuming process if you manually test an application. Then we have contract testing, that is API. We test the API specification, schema validation, all those. Then we have security testing, that is checking if your application is secure, that your data is not leaked by anyone. It is a protected one. Then last one is performance testing. How fast your application is working. What is the time taken for your application to give the response. So all these will be tested in performance testing. Then we have prototype test case design. Okay, in this we'll validate the request, headers, the parameters, the body structure, all these are correct or not. Then we check the response. We get once we send a request, we'll get a response. So we need to check if the response status codes are correct or not, data accuracy is there or not, format is validated, all this. The next one we'll do is error handling. If it is having any errors, that must be cleared, and you must make your application more better. Last one is test data management. You do some mock data, give some mock data, test environments, data cleanup, and then you test the application. Next is execution and validation. Okay, so in this figure you can see application or a client is there. It is sending a request, and request is received by the API. So API request is created, and that request is sent to the server or a data source, and from the server you can extract the request, and then it is created as a response, and this cycle will repeat, this flow will repeat. This is called API test flow, and this flow will be repeated until you get a full success application. While implementing, the best practices are continuous integration, that means automated test runs in CI/CD pipeline. CI/CD means we have continuous integration and continuous deployment. So you once the test is completed, you enter this automated test results into a CI/CD pipeline. Then we have regression suits, scheduled execution always. Then we have different types of API testing. First one is unit testing, that is individual API endpoints are tested. Then we have functional testing, that is business requirements. All the requirements, different functions will be provided by the application. So all the functions are running properly or not. Then security, as I told, your data, whatever data you are giving as input must be secure, it must be protected. It should not be shared with anyone. So we'll do a security testing. Then integration testing, that means multiple components will be tested together. So we have a main code and some subcodes. So all these subcodes will be tested at the same time. Then performance testing, load and stress test. Okay, so you do the load test and stress test. Then validation testing, API behavior verification is done in validation testing. Now we will discuss some API testing tools, that is Postman, Soap UI, JMeter, Calaton Studio, Karate, REST Assure. All these are different API testing tools, automatic testing tools. So you just upload the application or the test case into this tool, and the tool will give you a failure or a success result. So these are your assessment questions. Thank you. Have a nice day.